Good morning, everyone. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. We have a select amount of models on the ground with 2024 window stickers on them. Employee pricing is about to go down. If you're looking for a vehicle, I am your guy. Another convert is picking up a truck with me. Thank you so much to all of the support that we get from our listenership, our viewership. Without you, we wouldn't be here. It is January 12th. The Sunday Spectacular is on the go. Norman, London, Mike in Buffalo. Well, I'm not surprised the Leafs have lost two straight. We knew they were going into a tough stretch of 5, 6, 7 games, and they're off to a relatively anemic start, losing to Carolina after having a 2-0 lead, just kind of falling apart. And then last night at Scotiabank Arena, despite what Mitch Marner thought of the effort, a 3-0 dud against the Canucks. Mr. Augello, good morning. I'm sure you have plenty to say.
Good morning, Norm. I'm okay. I'm just going to read the comments that Mitch Marner made after the game, just to illustrate it, and then react to those. I liked it, meaning the effort. I thought we played well. I really did. Just the last couple games, we've been giving plays to teams that aren't missing on them. I thought we were a good 5-man tight unit in their zone, and I thought we went through the neutral zone as a unit. I think when we didn't do that, that's when there were breakdowns happening and they had a lot of offense off it. And that's something that we talked about that we need to be better at. And we'll look at it going forward and fix it. Okay. Any player, anyone who looked at that game against the Vancouver Canucks and thought that that was a good effort and that they played well is insane. Is delusional, as Steve Simmons mentioned this morning or yes, last night after the game, right. Is clueless. It was a terrible effort against a team that was struggling, against a team that had been delayed flying out of Carolina, that got into Toronto at 1:00, that didn't have a chance to get their usual full rest. In the second of back-to-back games, they come in and they didn't dominate, but they got a goal early in the first period on Dennis Hill to be on the first shot on goal, and we'll go into that in a second. But the whole point here is everybody else in that locker room, when asked the question, or the players that were interviewed after the game, said the effort wasn't good enough, we played badly, this and that, the whole thing. And Mitch Marner comes out with this happy-go-lucky bullshit, and is like, I liked it. I thought we played well. You didn't play well. How about owning up to the fact that you didn't play well, and you're coming off a game where your line was -17? I mean, they were on the ice for all 6 goals. Now, okay, two-thirds of that line are going to be playing in the Four Nations face-off, which means they're elite players. And elite players sometimes have bad games. But to say after that effort and you lay down and you play a weak, emotionless, listless effort against the Vancouver Canucks, you are clueless.
This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com, at Norman Oak Ridge Ford on Instagram. That's where you're going to get your next car, because it's going to be through me, your boy, with the podcast season 7. We are rocking and rolling. I think we've done 24 shows this season, Mike, and the best is yet to come. Hopefully things get better for the Maple Leafs. So on Marner, is he tone deaf, or is he providing perspective with these comments, like saying that he liked the effort? Well, because everybody else didn't like the effort. Was it perspective from a guy who's the 5th leading scorer in the league, has the right to say what he wants, whether we like it or not? Or is he's just on a different planet last night?
Well, okay. They're first place in the Atlantic Division. They had just come off winning 5 games in a row. Overall, they're having a very good season. If you recognize that this was a bad effort, but then put it in the context of, we're a good team, right, we had a good year, that's based in realism.
Has Mitch Marner ever conveyed himself or the things he believes that way?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember it. I mean, I know that he has made critical comments at times, but the ones that stick out in terms of critical comments usually are pointed toward the media. when they're criticizing him. There's not much to criticize with Mitch Marner. Like you said, he's in the top 5 in scoring this year. He's having a really good year. He's going to be on the top line for Canada at the Four Nations. He's, probably he has a chance of being, first team All-Star. As I've said many a time, Norm, during this season, all of that doesn't mean a good goddamn. It means what will mean something is when this team plays in the playoffs and they have success. And if Mitch Marner thinks that effort is acceptable and that will win in the playoffs, then he's going to perform like he's done in previous playoffs, which is not show up, because that was not a good enough effort.
Look, Marner's put his foot in his mouth on many occasions, and what he conveyed regarding last night's effort was contrary to what his teammates believed they saw or were a part of last night. Chris Tanev said it wasn't good enough. Austin Matthews thought the power play was garbage and made it known. Craig Berube not exactly happy with how things went on last night. It's things like last night and the stuff that Marner can spew, whether he believes it or not, that detracts from the all the good that he does. So we saw last night's game, and we know that it just wasn't up to par, even though they outshot the Canucks 3-0 on home ice. I mean, they don't get shut out that often. 2 straight losses against tough teams. Marner can say what he wants. We know we know how the game went down, and there's a sense that if this kind of play continues during this tough stretch, the Leafs will undo everything that they built up over that 5-game win or 5-game winning run.
Well, I mean, even the best teams go through sort of chaotic roller coaster up and down swings. It's an 82-game season. You're going to, the best teams are going to, what's the old baseball expression? It's, the best teams win a third, lose a third, and it's the difference between a great team and a good team and an okay team is what they do in that middle third. That's pretty much the same in the NHL. Even the best teams, unless it's the 76 Canadians, or whatever year it was when they had like 8 losses, every team is going to lose a third of their games and win a third of their games. It's what they do in that middle third. And, this team is a good team, but that there are gaps. That there are areas of concern. The power play definitely is one of them. They've been cavitating between using a 5-forward power play, which has not worked at all, and having Morgan Rielly on the point, which has not worked as well as in the past, because I think Rielly right now is having a difficult season. There's not really any other answer. Putting Oliver Ekman-Larsson on the point in the power play as top unit, I don't think works. So, you've got a boatload of talent. And this is not unfamiliar territory with other teams as well. Pittsburgh has struggled with Crosby and Malkin. Washington struggled on the power play with Ovechkin. So having the firepower that they have, it's rearranging it to make it effective. But it's costing them games because the power play just has not really settled in and been the unit that they thought it was going to be.
Why not put a whole new slew of personnel on that power play? Take all the top guys off, put the guys who watch the power play for the most part, make them integral, give them the opportunity. Just try something irreverent. Why the hell not?
Well, I mean, you can start the power play with the second unit and go with Nyes and Robertson and Max Domi and McMahon. You're doing the other team a favor by doing that. You're taking off a guy who scored 69 goals last year, a guy who's
totally ineffective on the power play.
Right. I get it. I mean, maybe you split it into 2 units, maybe, and teams have done
it's 2 minutes or less. Who gives a shit?
Berube
talked about it last night, and so did Matthews. We're not putting enough pucks on net. I mean, it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to actually do what you believe you should be doing. And there's a disconnect here.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's annoying about the Leafs power play, and I've seen this at times, and they're so talented that they think that they can do this all the time, but they think they can pass the puck into the net. They think they can pass it around and get a guy who's going to have a wide open, gaping net, and then they score the goal. No, it's not rocket science. You get a guy from the point, you get the puck on net, you clog the front of the net, you screen the goalie, you cash in the rebound. Riley, he doesn't have a big shot from the point, but when he's been most effective on the power play, he gets the puck through that somebody like Matthews or Tavares can tip the puck or cash in the rebound. They're just not doing that.
I'm a little behind on the comments, Mike. So.
Yeah, Ben Leonard in the chat saying, Mike, really appreciate your analysis, but why do you keep quoting Steve Simmons? Because Steve Simmons knows hockey. Because Steve Simmons is a columnist who's been in Calgary and Toronto the last 35 years. He knows his shit. You may not like him. You may not like his irreverence or his criticism, but he's right on target here. Mitch Marner is delusional when he makes those comments. It's like it could be, he just doesn't want to criticize the team. He doesn't want to criticize his teammates. That's fine. I get it. Then you know what? Couch it the way I did. You can say something supportive of the team and yet critical because that performance was pathetic. And you have to own up to those performances. You have to strive to be better. And the performance in Carolina on Thursday, everybody wrote it up because they had come in winning 5 games in a row. Okay, but they were up 2-0. They had a bunch of chances early in the first period. I think Nylander had 3 breakaways, and he finally cashed in on one of them. They're up 2-0, and that lead evaporated in 18 seconds. And then from that point on, Carolina dominated, and your best line, which has 2 players who some people think should be in consideration for the Selke, which means the best defensive forward in the league, gave up 6 goals, 3 of which were to Jordan Staal, who is not exactly Wayne Gretzky. Right. So, the 2 performances are a concern. And I actually think one of the stories that is sort of like not unreported because Craig Simpson last night in the contest or during the contest commented on it was the fact that the Leafs started Dennis Hildeby. Now, I like Dennis Hildeby. I think he's going to be a good goaltender. I don't know if he'll be a number 1, but, he came over from Sweden. He had some health issues. He had surgery to correct them. He's a big goaltender, which is always a plus. He had a really good year in the American Hockey League. And he's sort of been, since the injury to Stolarz, he's been up and down with Matt Murray. And they've settled on him staying and playing occasionally instead of calling up Matt Murray. Okay, fine. I don't think he's ready. In the last 3 games, I know the game against Buffalo that I was at last month, he gave up a goal on the first shot, and they were down, I think, 2-0 or 3-0 before they started to respond.
Right.
He gave up a goal on the first shot against Vancouver. That immediately puts your team behind the 8 ball. So, but Craig Simpson asked something that I think was a pretty good question. Why isn't Joseph Woll playing? Joseph Woll, he gave up 6 goals against Carolina, but I don't think anybody said that loss was on Joseph Woll. It was because the team played really terribly defensive. Now, he didn't make some great saves, but it wasn't on him. And there was a day off in between. Why are you playing Hildeby instead of playing Woll?
What was the answer to that question?
I don't think anybody got an answer to that question. I wasn't at the post game, but I did not hear a response, or I did not hear the question being asked to Craig Berube. Everybody was more focused on just the overall bad performance of the team last night. But it bears being asked to say, okay, again, I keep going back to this, and I know people are probably sick of hearing this. The most important, or one of the most important things this season, is to find out whether Joseph Woll can be the number 1. And part of being a number 1 is after a bad performance, you go back to the guy and you find out what he can do. Now, right. Last night with that effort in front of him, he probably would have lost, just like Hildeby lost. But right. The team played like crap. But it was incumbent upon Berube to play Woll, and he didn't. Now, I believe their next 2 games are at home. So I'm assuming, and it's Tuesday, Thursday. So Woll's probably going to play both games. But what does this mean? When Stolarz is coming back, they're just going to rotate them, or they're going to go heavy with Stolarz? The goaltending situation right now with the Leafs, Norm, is a bunch of unanswered questions, and they need answers. And one of the answers, the most important answer they need is Joseph Woll a number one?
OG's Converts, what say you? Thanks for being in the chat. We got 72 people here right now. The comment section is robust. Thank you for that. I've just lost track. I do want to give a shout out to OG Michael Matthew. Morning, guys. Golfing on the Sharks golf course in St. Lucia. We'll be listening.
Jealous.
Mike, this guy.
But I'm not a golfer. I'm just jealous of you being in St. Lucia.
I love both of you, Mikes, a lot, and it's been fun spending the last 7+ years doing this project with you, Mike, and of course, Mr. Matthew, chiming in whenever he possibly can. He's living the good life and joining us for this anguish. All things considered, first world problems. The Leafs still first place, still looking pretty good. We knew they were gonna be up against it with tough competition on the horizon and more to come. Well, with these games spaced out, Mike, are you saying that Joseph Woll should just grab the mantle and run with it here? Because I will say, had the Leafs won last night with Dennis Hill to be between the pipes, I'm not sure you would be going on, you'd be on your soapbox chirping about Woll like you typically do.
Well, I think Vepsis in the chat has it right here. He says, I think it's clear that the management is worried Woll going down as well and is trying to manage him. Either that's the right thing to do or not. It's debatable. Okay. I think there's something to that. The disaster that would occur right now with Stolarz out, and he's probably going to be out. I mean, I would suspect he's going to be out until after the Four Nations. The Four Nations starts February 9th. We're a month away. He had the surgery, I think, 3 weeks ago. So they said 4 to 6 weeks. Why rush him back for a week before a 2-week break? They're probably going to wait until after the Four Nations. So he's going to be out over 2 months. The disaster would be if Woll goes down too, and then you have Dennis Hildeby and Matt Murray, and that's a legitimate concern. But I'm sorry, you're not talking about playing them both ends of a back-to-back. There was a night in between. So it's not, right now, Hellebuck, Saros, Luukkonen in Buffalo, they've played the most starts in the NHL, and they've played about 3/4 of the games. They played about 30 games. I think Joseph Woll is probably in the high teens or early 20s, so he's split, and he's had more of a workload since Stolarz went down.
Are they babying him?
Yes, I think they're like what Vepsis said. I think they're trying to be overly cautious because they don't want to risk him getting hurt. And right now he's made 20 starts.
Right.
They played 40, 42, 43 games. So he's played half the starts. And that means between Stolarz, Murray, and Hildeby, it's a 50-50 split. Now,
T-Sack, Woll is always hurt, even when he isn't. Matthew, don't call me Tony Tanti. Woll should have sat against Carolina and played yesterday. He had already played a lot and could have given him a game off, then back at it this week for a long run. He does need his rest, but because there are off days interspersed between the activity that the Leafs are, involved in, this is the time to kind of get Woll on the ramp and launch him, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that would be my decision to go heavily with Woll, but I understand that sort of conservative thing in terms of, but I think you have to and this is the thing. It's like when Stolarz comes back, what they're going to do is they're going to split time.
Right.
And that doesn't provide you any answers unless you are planning to split your goaltenders.
Do we know that definitively? Has Craig Berube said, listen,
no.
all we're doing is a patchwork right now until Stolarz comes back, and then it's going to be a platoon between those two cats.
No, but I think that was proven from when both of them were healthy. And I think that's what they're going to end up doing. But my question is that what you're going to do in the playoffs?
Right.
Because if it's not, then you're doing a disservice to the guy that and this is my thing. And I could be wrong. I'm Mr. Negative. But Anthony Stolarz throughout his career has had injuries. So is Joseph Woll. I get that. Does that mean that neither one of them can start every other night in the playoffs? And if that's the case, then the Leafs have a goaltending problem, because you need, there's a reason why every team goes with one goalie in the playoffs.
Right.
So Boston last year, they went with a pure rotation during the regular season with Swayman and Ullmark. They started the series against Toronto with Swayman going game 1 and winning, Ullmark going game 2 and losing, and then Jim Montgomery decided, I'm going to go with Swayman for the rest of the playoffs, and Ullmark didn't play again unless he came in relief when Swayman got pulled. Mm. It doesn't work. I mean, it's one thing when a goalie gets injured and you have to go to, if Thatcher Demko goes down in Vancouver and you have to go with Archer Svilovs. You have no other choice.
Hey, Mike, I have a question for you, okay? So we have Dallas Tuesday, New Jersey Thursday, Canadians on Saturday. Then there's Tampa. There's the Blue Jackets. 2 Saturdays from now, you've got the Senators, and then they finish up the month with the Wild. There's time off in between every single game, right? So of the 7 games to come, how do you break that down? What does Woll play, and what does either Murray or Hildeby play?
Okay, I mean, I would play Woll both games at home against Dallas and New Jersey because there's no travel. I would then play Hildeby against the Canadians because the Canadians suck. I mean, even though they've been hot,
yeah.
But that is always maybe that's a game you call Matt Murray out.
But this isn't about. Is this about matching talent with what you're expecting versus workload management?
Well, I mean, if it was me, but the thing is, it's not, and they have the knowledge of these players and what they're going through that I don't. If it's me with the games in between, I'm playing Woll every game, but they're not going to. So if I'm choosing,
you think he wants to? Think he wants to play every game? You think he's?
Oh yeah, he wants to be the number one. Who doesn't want to be the number one? But I'm just saying, I look at the schedule and I'm saying, okay, Tuesday, Thursday, home against Dallas, home against New Jersey. I'm playing Woll both of those games. Hildeby on the road against Montreal at Centre Bell, and then they come back Monday, Wednesday, Tampa, Columbus. I play Woll both of those games. So he would play in my estimation. He plays 4 of the 5 games, and all 4 games at home.
Is this a good trial run? Would this be to finish up the month of January, a good opportunity, if all goes well, to see how Joseph Woll can handle a number 1 goaltender workload? This is just finish up the month. The Leafs are going to the playoffs. They're going to get hot again. They have 4 goaltenders that they can go to. 3 right now, but in a perfect world, 4. Woll is the guy you want to make your number 1. He's the guy who's given you the indication that he has the capability to be that talent-wise. So why not just run with him? Let's see what he can do. It's
an opportunity. They should take advantage of it. It's not overtaxing him. And I think it gives them knowledge of what his capabilities are for the postseason. Whether they'll take advantage of it,
right? I
don't know. All I know is, I think they're sort of running a little scared with Woll. I mean, we saw sort of the body language that he had in one of the games against the Islanders where he sort of looked like he tweaked something. And then there was another game where it looked like he tweaked something, and he played through it and he played fine. So, I mean, if there's a mental block there about him getting through injuries, that's something he either has to get over or something that the organization has to take into consideration.
How much are analytics playing a role in how Craig Berube determines who starts between the pipes?
I don't think it's analytics. I think it's sports science. I think it's, on Off the Post, the show that I did before this, Russ Cohen brought up the fact that the Leafs are the only team in the NHL from January 1st to now that has not practiced. So what does that tell you? You're in the middle of the season. You're sort of in the dog days. You're playing every other night. And I'm sure their sports science contingent is saying, okay, well, you're benefiting more from rest than you are from practices. And they can do video work and Okay, I mean, maybe that works when you're five. If you're winning 5 in a row, you give the players off. If you're losing 2 in a row and you're playing the way that you play, then you got to get out there and practice. Because
so that doesn't mean they're not going to practice the rest of the
no,
month, and the power play needs work. I don't care if you're out there on in the snow or on the pavement. Get some sticks and an orange ball and work on a damn power play, because we all know that when push comes to shove, if you cannot score, take advantage of your opportunities with the extra man, when every damn goal is so crucial in the playoffs, you are not winning a damn thing. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. OG's Converse, thanks for being here. What a lively chat this morning. We appreciate it very much. As you said, Mike, we are in the dog days of the hockey season. Even when it comes to content, the coverage of Maple Leafs on social media and in the digital world is incredibly saturated. Mm-hmm. We're in our own little corner, and we appreciate you being with us, but we're hoping that the numbers for us uptick and continue to ascend as the games become more meaningful. Ray Hindi, I'm not familiar with the name, but he kind of, I don't know, he just kind of has that feeling that a lot of fans do when they're on a bit of a slide. This team is crap. They just don't have that hunger. It's like they don't really care if they win or lose, period. Ray, when the Leafs completed that 5-game stretch, when they won all 5 of those games, would you be posting like this?
I think if Ray had messaged us in the middle of the 5-game win streak when they took over first place in the division from Florida, he'd be saying they could beat the Broad Street Bullies. They're so great. I mean, it's fandom. I get it. It's like when they're winning, you think that they're unbeatable, and they lose, you don't think they can beat the Buffalo Sabres or the Chicago Blackhawks, and sometimes they can't. That's right. Probably part of the problem, is sometimes they can't beat the teams that they should beat. Now, they've played a couple teams. Carolina's a playoff team. Vancouver, in spite of their recent struggles, are a playoff team, and they lost both of them, and the efforts were weak. I mean, my concern with this team right now is that there's an inconsistency. I mean, you can't ignore it now. It's been 3 weeks where William Nylander has been crap. He's just played really. He played from the start of the season until about mid-December. He was one of the best players in the NHL. He was on a 50-goal pace. He was both ends of the ice. He was strong on his stick. He was making great goals. All these things. And I don't know if he got injured or if he got sick or what. But the last 3 weeks, it's been Mr. Willie. It hasn't been Dr. Nylander. And that's a concern because, now if it's illness or something like that and he's playing through something, okay, I think everybody would cut him some slack. He's just not playing well. And when you're not getting depth scoring, when you're not getting secondary scoring from McMahon, Domi, and Robertson, and the top line isn't producing, Matthew Nice scored 5 goals in 3 games. Matthews has looked better since coming back, but he still doesn't look like Matthews. Right. And that line goes -17 against Carolina. It's not a recipe for success. And like somebody else said in the chat, their defense doesn't score. You can accept that if your defense is shutting down teams, but you now recognize that Jake McCabe is an important part of this defense. And without him, you've got Philippe Myers playing a top 4 role. And Philippe Myers is a good depth defenseman, but he's not a top 4 defenseman.
No. T-Sac, the lack of depth will always be a problem. Sorry, guys, I'm having a little bit of an issue here. The lack of depth will always be a problem for a team playing so much of its cap to 5 guys. That's really not going anywhere anytime soon. We're just going to have to deal with that.
We're singing from the same hymn book, T-Sac.
Yeah, we know that. We live with it for now. Dale Simpson, Leafs won 5 games in a row because of the goalies. It's nothing to do with the defense or forwards. Now it is showing. A few commenters highlighted the fact the Leafs beat the Islanders and the Flyers during that 5-game run, and once they get up against tougher competition, they lose. I mean, I don't know if that's an indication of anything. The Leafs have beaten some pretty damn good teams this season. They win, they lose. I mean, what did you expect when you win 5 straight games? Do you think the odds of winning a 6th go up? It's harder to extend that streak. So they've lost 2 in a row. They have an ability to kind of jump back into things. And, even if they kind of go 500 the rest of the month, but start scoring more on the power play, limit those scoring chances against, kind of get things going, then I'll be happy with that. On Nylander, 3 points, 1 goal in his last 8 games. I mean, every player is entitled to a bit of a slump, but and again, the Leafs had won a bunch of games during his run of anemic offense. He has the right to slump. They all do. It's how does he snap out of it, and how does it benefit the team? A few more comments, Mike, and I want to get to Ryan Reaves, and then we'll go.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the depth scoring is a concern. I think the center situation is a concern, especially with I've said a few times, and maybe my fears are assuaged slightly by the fact that Matthews has come back and he's playing well. But I think Matthews wants to play in the Four Nations, and the only way he's going to play in the Four Nations is if he's healthy between now and the beginning of February. I'm sure it means a lot to him. He wants to play in the Olympics next year, and he's got to be available for his team to be available to his country. I get that, but I'm just saying, if there's any question, he shouldn't play, and if he gets hurt or if he's diminished before, during, or after it, then that presents Brad for living with a dilemma, because they're going to have to go out and get a center. And not a center that's just a plug third line guy. I think somebody who, if in case Matthews gets hurt, can step into a top 6 role. That's not going to be cheap.
Right. Matthews has to take responsibility in this circumstance. If he believes he can play, wants to play, and doesn't think it's going to be a hindrance to his ability to become the player he once was with the Maple Leafs following this event, then it's his choice. I mean, I hate to see a contentious battle between organization and player over something that should be, a no-brainer, right? You're going to go play. But considering the ups and downs Matthews has had with injury this season, he's really going to have to be thoughtful about his decision. Speaking of injuries, Dale Simpson, again, thanks for your contributions tonight. And I'm having a little bit of trouble bringing these up. But Dale mentions that Nylander got crushed into the boards by Wilson when they were playing Washington. And he thinks that Nylander hasn't been the same since.
Okay, that may be a factor. Like I said, he could be playing through something. If it's something that, remember with Max Domi was terrible for like the first 20 games, and they sat him for 2 or 3 weeks, and he's played better since. If it's an injury that's limiting a player, this is not the playoffs. You need these players to be at 100% or as close to it. And clearly, the way Nylander has played the last 3 weeks has been diminished. If it's injury, that's understandable. If it's something other than that, if it's illness or injury, then sit him out for a while and let him get back to 100%. But clearly, he was carrying this team at times. Yeah. He was on a 50-goal pace, and he's not doing that now. So they need him at his best.
That's the process of a season, though, Mike. When you have enough talent, some will shine brighter than others. The hope is that everybody's on board and will all shine incredibly bright to the point where they blind their competition when it really matters the most. So on we go past the halfway point, finishing up a very difficult stretch of games in January. The Maple Leafs 2 straight losses after a 5-game winning run. It's just another day in Leafs Nation. T-Sack, would Garland have viciously assaulted little Nicky last night if Reaves was dressed? So thanks for bringing up Ryan Reaves, T-Sack. And the answer to that is absolutely. So Reaves hasn't played the past 2 games. 3 days ago, Leafs Convo poll, youtube.com/Leafs Convo/community. The question, is Ryan Reaves full value to this team still to be determined? So I'm leaving it open to the OGs and converts. 100 votes. 40% say no, he's got to go. 22% say just you wait. He's the best as yet to come for Ryan Reaves. And 38%, and this is where it gets gray, believe he's just irrelevant. Who cares? That's probably the most concerning thing in that we're okay with him just kind of being there and taking up space. Last word to you, Mike.
78% in that poll is essentially a negative or a non-factor.
Right.
That speaks volumes. That basically says to you that he's inconsequential and he's a waste of salary cap space. And I think now this is the funny thing. If Calle Jarnkrok, who I guess is starting to work, and maybe back before the end of the season. I mean, who knows? I think it was stomach muscle surgery, so it's a sports hernia surgery. That's a long process to come back from. And he's like over $2 million on the cap. If he comes back before the end of the season, most of the space you need to clear will be Ryan Reaves' salary. I don't ignore the possibility that he's going to get waived because they need that space, and they may need that space before March the 7th. They can be as creative as possible, but really he does not contribute much to this team. And to answer that question, Connor Garland would have done it. No, I mean, Ryan Reaves can't catch him.
Right.
And
for all his warts, Reaves is there to ensure the Leafs against being humiliated by the Wilsons of the world.
Okay,
what happened happen?
Yeah, what happened with Garnet Hathaway, T-Sack? He pushed him, and Garnet Hathaway said, I'm not going to bother with you. And then he played a little under 7 minutes and was a complete and utter non-factor. Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, if you have a tough physical player who will defend his teammates, it's invaluable. And Ryan Reaves, either for the reason that nobody will waste their time fighting him because, it's like almost every player on the ice is better than him. So of course Reaves would want to take somebody off the ice like Garnet Hathaway because Hathaway contributes more to the Flyers. They don't bother. I think the philosophy of all these teams out there is just ignore Ryan Reaves. He can't catch you. He can't hit you. And if you don't fight him, he's useless. And that's what it is. He's useless. And Matthew,
hold on a sec, Mike. A lot of fans believe that Reaves is just an insurance policy, and when the cage needs to be open, it's going to be for something substantial. I believe they should have drawn on that insurance on a few occasions this season, and it never happened. Again, I mean, I just all talk, no action with this cat. Before we go, Matthew Tansey's going on about something here. He's been trying to get our attention.
Yeah, no, I mean, Matthew, I understand your want. I see Bowen Byram all the time.
Who is he talking about, Mike?
Bowen Byram, defenseman, former 4th overall pick from Colorado, traded to the Sabres. He's a restricted free agent at the end of the year. There's a lot of talk of him possibly being traded. I don't think the Sabres are going to trade him. They traded Casey Middlestat to get them. He's a very good offensive defenseman. But Matthew, I mean, I'm not sure how young you are, how old you are. Let me scoot. As a veteran of the Buffalo-Toronto corridor, the Buffalo Sabres will never trade a player of consequence to the Toronto Maple Leafs, out of the fear that player will be successful. And every time they come into the building, that guy screws them over and makes them look worse. It's called Dave Andreychuk disease because Dave Andreychuk in 93, even though they were in different conferences, the Sabres traded Dave Andreychuk, Darren Pupa, and a number 1 pick for Grant Fuhrer. And that was the worst trade in the history of the Buffalo Sabres because Andreychuk went on to score 50 goals with the Leafs. And every time he scored a goal, it was a stab in the back. That was the feeling to Sabre fans and the Sabres management. The organization has made one trade with Buffalo. Buffalo's made one trade with Toronto in the last, I think, 25 years, and that was Dominic Moore for a 2nd-round pick. They will never trade Bowen Byram to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
What does ego have to do with it anymore? The teams are at polar opposites of the spectrum right now. And the Sabres have always been a bit of a financial leash on the Maple Leafs. They were a team that took from the luxury tax salary cap top teams over the years. And every time the Leafs go into Buffalo, all of the fans across the border with the Leafs and, that arena is, busting at the seams with business. If it meant more business for a team like Buffalo that's in a kind of no man's land right now, why the hell else wouldn't they do it outside of just ego and inferiority complex? I mean, just let it go, Mike. We probably should get out of here unless you have.
I'll just say quickly, it's not impossible that those two teams trade, but there is an Atlantic Division tax for the Leafs to get Bowen Byram from the Sabres. The Leafs would have to completely overpay to get him, so it wouldn't be beneficial. So it's not happening. So don't worry.
Hey guys, like the content, subscribe to the channel. You guys mean everything to us. Thanks so much. If we missed your comment in the live chat, why don't you copy and paste it below the content on YouTube? That's one thing we're lacking is comments. Our chat during the shows in real time is amazing. But you guys have a lot of things you'd like to say that should be copy and pasted onto the channel below this content, because it certainly lives in infamy. The Stars coming up, then it's the Devils, and then they finish up with the Canadians. Mike, I know you say the Canadians suck, but they've been hot.
No,
They've
they've
got
been
momentum.
hot.
Wouldn't that fucking blow if they get beat by the Stars, beat by the Devils, and lose a fifth straight at the hands of the Canadians at Centre Bell after putting up a 5-game winning run? I mean, if you think we're in a tizzy now, wait till next Sunday spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Bills Broncos. Come on, man. Let's go. What's happening?
I think the Bills will win. I think it's going to be closer than people think. But the events of last night, where Baltimore beat Pittsburgh convincingly and Derrick Henry ran over a big Pittsburgh defense. If Buffalo wins this week, they will lose next week. I have no confidence that they will get past the Ravens.
You don't think this is the year?
No, I don't. This was supposed to be a rebuilding year, and they've overachieved. I mean, as a fan, I give them credit for doing what they've done, but their path to the Super Bowl is beating both Baltimore and Kansas City, and I think that's a bridge too far.
Is Josh Allen the league's MVP?
No, it's going to be Lamar Jackson. The NFL All-Pro voting came out during the week, and Lamar Jackson was voted the first team All-Pro, and no quarterback that has won that has lost the MVP.
So do you think he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder?
He should. I mean, I think everybody in that team should have a chip on their shoulder, and maybe that will make the difference between them beating or not beating the Ravens next week.
Right.
But they can't look past the Broncos. The Broncos are a decent team, and they could very easily beat the Bills if the Bills don't play up to their capabilities. So,
well, in Southwestern Ontario, general lines are divided between Buffalo and Detroit when it comes to fandom, right? Yeah. Detroit's just had this incredible year, the #1 seed. And I mean, they're looking really, really good. And you can see more Fairweather fans jumping on board, piggybacking on what all the traditional Lions fans in this area have been, going on about for the last couple of seasons. I'm in the Bills camp, obviously. So I'm rooting for the Bills, and maybe they can go on a bit of a run here and get to a place that you don't even think they'll get to, Mike.
Well, I'll just say this: I like the Lions. I have nothing against them. They're sort of similar to the Bills in their lengthy struggles. If the Bills get eliminated, I would root for Satan over Kansas City. So I'm rooting for pestilence and plague to occur at Arrowhead Stadium to prevent them from winning another Super Bowl.
Well, most people don't like the perennial top team or the champion or the team that's building a dynasty. Everybody wanted the Pats to lose. The Cowboys 30 plus years ago, the Steelers, and of course now everything that's happening with the Chiefs and the relation with Taylor Swift, and it's not Taylor Swift's fault. I'm dating a third line defenseman on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Who gives a shit?
But I'm one of the few people in Buffalo. Everybody thought Tom Brady was Beelzebub, and everybody hated the Patriots because they won for 20 years. I didn't hate Tom Brady. I thought he's a fantastic quarterback, and I'm like, the Patriots were a great organization. It's like, I mean, I wanted the Bills to be like that, but I didn't hate them. There's a hate right now with Kansas City. There is just like, maybe it's seeing Patrick Mahomes on every goddamn State Farm commercial or Travis Kelce. They're just like so overblown, and I'm so past it. And I think a lot of people are just sick and tired of them and just want them to go away, at least for a little while. At least, the Patriots, they went away for 10 years, and then they came back and won 3 more Super Bowls. So it was like,
right.
But yeah, anybody but Kansas City. Like I said, I'll root for Philadelphia, Detroit, anybody except Kansas City.
It's one thing if it were superficial, artificial hype. It's legitimate hype, Mike. The Chiefs are the top dog, and they've won it and proven it, and may continue to do that this season until it's proven otherwise, that a team is better than they are, and time will tell. So, I mean, maybe it's the Ravens, maybe it's the Lions, maybe it's the Bills. Wouldn't that be something? Mr. Augello, thanks so much for everything. OG's Conference, like the content, subscribe to the channel, watch our shorts, copy and paste what you're saying here in the live chat below the post on YouTube, which will be up in a matter of minutes. Mr. A, we may reconvene here before the Sunday Spectacular, so have your phone on. For Mike Augello, I'm Norm James. Thanks for watching the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford. We are out. Enjoy the games today, guys.